The speech and the audiobook that I'm talking about today is more so a perspective on how to build a foundation that will then ultimately help you succeed in the long run. I'm talking about the Make Your Bed speech from Admiral William McRaven. Um, the speech was initially brought to the public sphere, I believe in 2014, around that time. This was a commencement speech. So another commencement speech, I guess that is the theme that I've been a little drawn to lately, of how to change the world in a perspective of doing the little things, the small things, the small ripples. So Admiral McRaven gives this speech to the graduating class at the University of Texas in Austin, Hook 'em. I'm wearing the hat from the 2006 Rose Bowl today to commemorate. And the premise of the speech, which ended up turning into a book, and he expands on a lot of these ideas in the book, and that's kind of what I'm going through today, is actually the audio book. But the speech is 20 minutes of him going through all the lessons that he learned from his training in the Navy SEAL training in BUDS, that can really be boiled into a very simple message of make your bed, something super small. But as he talks through all of the lessons and the just challenges that he goes through and went through throughout that training, he really can sum it up with a single point that he can go back to of small wins, of consistency, and of accountability. So, like I said, he's giving this speech to the graduating class, and he talks about all of these lessons, and it's just a small ripple where there's a point in the book where he's talking about how if you impact one person, the network effect that has because of that impact that they will go on to have towards others. So he basically walks through the math of, like, you start with a small ripple here, and then that will just continue to go out to the point where you're impacting, millions, if not billions of people on this earth. And it's just a great reminder for when things feel like you're pushing a rock up against a hill, and you're not seeing the like compounded growth or the huge accelerants that you're hoping for, depending on what your aspirations are, because it allows you to not only have a renewed perspective and a different perspective of a lot of what's going on, but also it takes you a moment to understand where you are in your journey. So, like I said, he talks about these foundations, and the biggest one, again, like number one that he discusses, is make your bed. Start your day with a task completed, right? Like, so if you think about your to-do list, you want to start your day getting something done with a win. And that's non-negotiable. And it's this speech, I remember listening to it when I was in college and reading the book, and that like was a total shift for me of why to make your bed. It's not just because, like, you want to be clean and presentable, and a clean mind is like it allows for things to flow nicely and you're not working through clutter, but it also is a psychological achievement where he says, even if you had a really shitty day, even if you had a bunch of losses throughout the day, you still had one. You still had one. And that's a key that you can always come back to. He talks after a hard day of training, or a hard day of going through Navy SEAL training, and going through buds, he talks about when you come back to your made bed, it's like, okay, like, and it resets for the next day. And you have that just clear delineation of something that you can control, the small things that you can control, because this will again ripple out to where it can get much bigger, to finding that leverage and really creating that impact of even just the smallest little thing, because it also sets an example for others. And when you set an example for others and raise the standard for yourself, then that really leads nicely into his second lesson, talking about how helping somebody to find your paddle. So again, these are all like in relation to Navy SEAL training, but the reason why this speech has resonated so far is because it's such an allegory to life. And a lot of what you see in military and in the sports is attributed and reflected in life, in business and in social relationships and practices and all these things. And a big piece of SEAL training when you're down in San Diego on the beaches in the Pacific Ocean is there's a lot of like things that you need to do in a boat. And this number 2 is just like a very important piece of finding the right people to both support and support you, and having reciprocity there, because it is a two-way street. And you don't need to go through things alone. Like there's a quote that I love, where it's, if you want to go far, or sorry, if you want to go fast, go alone, right? So fast is alone. And if you want to go far, go together. So there's this idea of you need support from others. You need to be working together and finding the people who will have your back, because you're not always going to be at 100%. You're not always going to be the clear number one or most powerful like character in a situation, right? Like you're going to have to play to your strengths and play to other strengths, and having somebody that you can rely on, whether that's a partner, whether that's a mentor, whether that's anything in between, then it just really helps. It really helps get through some of those challenging times, to where if you keep stacking up these small wins and then you have people in your corner that are supporting you, then once like the foundation's set and you're ready for sustainable growth, then it becomes durable. And it's hard to find people like that, but that's where I think it's so important to find rooms and find communities and find like areas of interest that attract people that you want to be around. Like I've talked about it before, the proximity to power. That's Tony Robbins' like whole thing of, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to basically be around other entrepreneurs. Find a single entrepreneur that hasn't been exposed to countless leaders and guides. Like you stand on the shoulders of those before you. And that allows you to then grow and learn and fail too. But when you're providing these small wins and you're growing and finding that leverage of what you are good at, then it just helps you lift the tide of everybody, and a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's, one of the things that I come back to when I listen to this is you don't know who's going to end up helping you in the long haul. So yes, you want to find somebody who's like a ride or die, and that's the person you want to help paddle, but you also don't know when or where those situations are going to show up. So if you're just taking a surface level view of all of these of all of these aspirations, and you're not really being present and being fully aware of what's going on, then you might miss something. So the person by the size of their heart, right? Like you might think somebody might not look the part, or they might not have the background that will allow them to be successful, but you really don't know that until you know that. You have to go through the trials and the tribulations. You have to give people a fair shot, because if you're not, and you're just closed off and you're very stubborn in your ways, then you're not going to be able to adapt, and you're going to miss potentially you're going to miss some really, really big opportunities that could come knocking on your door. So it takes a lot of practice and a lot of humility to have this back and forth, and to be willing to have a beginner's mindset and to want to learn. But it also provides a opportunity to just observe and sit in silence. And I think that that's something that's missing with a lot of the discourse today, and a lot of how I'm trying to continue and build, this and my brand, and what I'm working on is that silence and asking of the questions. Because when I find myself talking too much, then I just feel like I'm regurgitating things from either that other conversations that I've had in the past, or from other podcasts I've listened to, books I've read, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, I love sharing these ideas with people, but if I don't learn new ideas, then I'm just gonna miss miss the butterfly that's flying across the room, like that classic meme, like, oh, is this where it's been this entire time? And I think that's like critical. And when you fall into this trap of having preconceived thoughts and notions of different ideas, and just not being willing to have the conversation, even if it's a hard conversation, then it will only come back to stifle your growth in the long run. Um, and that's something that it's just a constant reminder to remain curious, and to really just be open and accepting of what's happening. Um, there's a push pull of like, is life happening to you, or are you kind of driving your own life? Like, how are you interacting with these things? Um, are you getting emotional? Am I taking things personally? Am I not seeing the forest through the trees? And when you get stuck and caught in like the minutia of what's happening throughout your day, then a lot of things that seem small will actually, or that seem big in the moment, will actually be small in the long run. um, his lesson that he talks about here is this idea of a sugar cookie, and it's like, it sounds like one of the most aggravating things ever. You go in the ocean and then you basically just lay in the sand soaking wet, like face down, back down, um, just sand everywhere. Sounds super uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. But there is this idea of there's always going to be something nagging that's uncomfortable around you. When you can fix it early, that's important. There's a quote that I love about like a rock in your shoe. Like, if you have a rock in your shoe early on and you just can get it out, then it won't matter. But if you keep that rock in your shoe, then it starts to aggravate the heel, and you get blisters, and then the blister pops, and then you can get an infection, and it just becomes like this snowball effect of compounding. It's like the opposite of making your bed, right? It's like small losses can also compound um if they're not taken care of early on. And I think that's something that I've had to come to grips with, from like a discipline and a schedule, and kind of anti-procrastination perspective. Because if you let things linger, then they'll only get bigger over time, to where it's like, well, I had plenty of time to deal with this a week ago, and now I let it sit. I knew it was coming up. It wasn't like a hard deadline then, but now for whatever reason, there is a hard deadline, and now I'm scrambling to get it done. And that's for so many different things. Um, there's debts that we're constantly collecting, uh, invisible debts beyond actual debts. Like, there's physical debts. If you stop going to the gym, and you're not eating right, then that debt of your weight will start to pick up, and you have exercise debt. Or Chris Williamson talks about anxiety debt, and when you procrastinate on like simple to-dos, then you just let it fester when you can get it done with, like folding your laundry, or whatever. Like, if I just get it done with right away after the dryer's finished, then I don't have to deal with it. But if I let it sit for a full day, then I get home and I'm ready to go to bed, but oh nope, my laundry still needs to be folded, and I just dropped it all. uh Comforter. So like that's a real life example. Like I had that anxiety debt where it just ends up delaying not delaying even gratification, delays like productivity. And then there's mental debt. There one of the things that I am really working to get back on is a daily practice of journaling and meditation and yoga, and I've fallen off of that. Recently, and I've built up a really a surplus of some of this because of my practices that I've had in the past, but I feel it depleting as I'm like getting ready for a lot of the big um goals and things that I have upcoming. So if I don't take the time to rebuild up that surplus of mental like health, then I'm gonna end up paying for it in the long run. um so it's becoming aware of these things and just getting over being a sugar cookie. Like, oh, I don't have time, because I'm busy or because this and that. Oh, my bike broke down, and now I need to either walk or Uber places again. Like that's get over it. It's not fair. Life's not fair. Drive on, keep going, and that then will unlock this idea of like being afraid of the circus and just risk is what it comes down to. His example is, I think, going like face down on a obstacle course, but that is also like the what they call the cringe mountain, right? Of content. And like, you got to climb the cringe mountain in order to actually get people to want to view your stuff. Because when you start off, one, you don't know what you're doing, and two, you're probably not interesting. And you need to find that ability to like take the risks and do things that are uncomfortable in order to like break through and find your voice. Ultimately, like that's what it comes down to, because people are attracted to genuine authentic voices. And I just am so inspired by the people who are willing to put out work, even if it's like very raw, and they're working through it and figuring out what exactly their offer is or what exactly the content looks like. Because it's hard to press publish sometimes, and it might seem so arbitrary, but everybody knows that feeling of like, oh, do I really want to put this out, like all these things. And I understand wanting it to be good. Like, I don't want to put out bad analysis and thoughts on what's going on, but I also need to get over the mental barrier of like, well, if I think it's good and I'm going to have a irrational optimism or a delusional optimism, like that just idea that it's going to find the right people, places, and communities online, that it will end up being valuable for people, then I need to do it. It's like it comes back to like this yoga idea of dharma and like what your purpose is. Now, is my purpose this? It feels like it right now, in a sense. Like it feels like I enjoy talking about it. I get energy kind of discussing a lot of these hard ideas, these difficult ideas, and being challenged on it. um but I understand that I'm gonna fail. Like I'm going to fail. I'm going to drop the ball on things. I'm going to get caught up in some small things, like all the little BS that I was just talking about. But if I can get over being the sugar cookie and then take the small wins of like 10 minutes a day of self-reflection and journaling, and like just such a small period of time, like getting off of my phone and my screens, then I will ultimately come to a place where I am happy and proud of the work that I'm putting out. And that's a work in progress, but it just requires you to dare greatly. And I guess I was one ahead, but like sliding down the obstacle head first, it's the same thing, right? Like it's the same thing. And, there's going to be sharks, there's going to be critics, there's going to be people that either don't see the vision or they think that you should spend your time elsewhere. They might not say it to your face, they might say it behind your back. Or you might even have those same thoughts because of like the programming that we see throughout society. Like when people go on the when people go on a different path, when you kind of stray from what's like traditional or the right way to do it, it does really break the glass of a lot of what you thought and believed to be important versus what actually is. And going even back to like having, someone to help you paddle, that's where it's like really important here, because it's going to be hard. You're going to have different challenges that you I could never have anticipated. And so many opportunities the same way. And that's where it's like really important to keep your eyes open and be present and aware of what's happening, and actually having a idea of where you want to go, so you can get into the rooms of around those people. Like it's a simple formula that a lot of people online talk about. There's a huge culture of, hustle bro, and entrepreneurial culture is sexy, right? Like but it's sexy in a different way. Not like, I mean, the successful ones, obviously, you're like, oh, I hope that is my situation one day. But you also need to realize like everybody's situation is going to be different, and just because one person seems like they're totally crushing it doesn't mean that like everything else is going great. Like, you don't know how much financial debt that person has. Speaking of another type of debts that we all collect. So everybody's going through like these different journeys and paths. And I think that's why speeches like this are so important, because it's like Admiral McRaven is in such a tiny percentage of the population of these Navy SEALs, right? Like going on these demolition missions. He was the overseer of the mission that killed Osama bin Laden. So like this guy was making decisions at the highest levels of government. And you can still take that and just find this common denominator of what is the thing that I need to focus on in order to bring joy and happiness and wealth into my day to day. And at the, very baseline level, it is like make your bed, right? Like it is just start the day with the win. But then that can kind of like spread out into so many different areas of your business or of your practice or of your life, of like, well, what are those small things that are equivalent or analogous to making your bed in your business? Is it just simply responding on time? Is it logging in on time? Is it posting like that, marketing copy that you are required to do right away, or letting that anxiety debt build up? And I think that becomes a very important like piece to this, of like, where else in your life are the small wins where you can come back to that and say, okay, well, I know I'm doing this well at a baseline level. I know I'm tracking like this well. And then I know this person has my back. So I'm doing this well. I have this person to have my back. I have an idea. I have some extra time or some extra bandwidth to maybe expand and try something new, and go back and forth and play around with these new ideas, and just like, collect little pieces of data and survey what's happening. Because then all the other stuff that comes up, you can deal with it. You can know what's a sugar cookie, and know the perspective of, well, I'm still doing this right, and I used XYZ kind of to rationalize why I think the next move was correct. And it's like win or learn. I like, that's the key, win or learn, because at the end of the day, like the biggest thing is to stay in the game. So when the sharks come, when the critics come, you don't back down from them. You can stand on your beliefs, on your, core foundation of what you're doing, and why, knowing the why. A lot of people don't know their why, and they're figuring it out, sure. But once you have it, then yeah, go. What are you waiting for? Because it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Like, you wouldn't want it to be easy. If it was easy, then it wouldn't be valuable. Like, we value scarcity. We value the things that are hard to get. So it's just a matter of understanding, is that hard what I'm choosing to overcome? Or is it something that's more, materialistic, surface level, that I don't have to worry about? And I think that's also important to play around with, but you have to understand like what is the North Star and what are the things that you're really looking to accomplish? Like what is that moment or that thing? And if it comes down to something that's like materialistic, then I don't know if that's the right approach. There aren't many like material items that I'm looking to obtain right now. I am personally looking to grow my business that is sustainable where I can live comfortably, meaning I can pay rent, eat, and travel back and forth to where then I can provide experiences for people that help them uh, learn about freedom technology and learn about how to build a better future. And then on the other side of that, also using that technology to help them come back to themselves on what their actual like purpose or dharma, for lack of a better term, is. So using this freedom technology and freedom from technology through practices like sovereign AI and privacy and Bitcoin to then come to a breathwork practice and a yoga practice that allows you to actually like reap the benefits from that and you know bear that fruit. So that's just like a North Star for me. And my duty then is to work backwards to figure out the best way to achieve it. Because as he goes on to share, it's going to get hard. And there's going to be moments where you doubt yourself. You might doubt, the approach you're taking. You might doubt just everything. And it's not like that's never going to show up. But I think the idea of like this delusional optimism is all flowing into one by one here, of like, can you be the best version of yourself when you're tired, when it's hard, when it seems like the chips are down? Can you show up? And I have examples of myself like being proud of myself of doing this in a lot of physical challenges. Especially, there's a men's group I'm involved with, where we do an overnight ruck, 30 pounds backpack through the night for a marathon, 26.2 miles. And I remember I've done it twice, and the first time I did it, it was the last thing that I wanted to do. I didn't want to do it. I was in a bad mood. I was dealing with a lot of like just work things, getting acclimated to this new journey that I was on. And I ended up participating, and I was really proud of myself because I was a light for people who were struggling. And when it got hard, I was the one that was playing music, and I brought a speaker, and I was the one that was having really deep and insightful and meaningful conversations with people who were friends but became even closer than like brothers over the span of those 8-9 hours, whatever it was, for that ruck. And then this year when I did it again, it was like I had that built up, so I was already so excited to go into it to be that person. So like I knew when it got dark and when it got hard, I could show up. I could show up. And the key, and that's where I think a lot of physical challenges, even going back to like the David Goggins episode that I reviewed, is really important for men, because physically it's so like transparent when that happens, of like when things get dark and how you have to like push through and just like fucking go. But translating that to other aspects of life, it takes different shades of personality. It takes different strategies of connection. And it takes different ideas around creativity. So from a physical sense, sure. But what about when somebody's going through something that's really emotionally hard? Am I able to show up there? And I think there's a lot of ways that I can improve on that. I'm finding how to connect and finding how to both find sympathy and empathy, and play along with my unique perspective in everything that I've gone through. And then applying that to business, and when things are seeming like you're dealing with fire drills and you're trying to build something up. Same idea. How can I not just be positive but be productive and valuable and provide value? And the sometimes it is just as simple as remaining positive. Like when you're neck in the mud, like it's simple as just singing, right? Like that he talks about how that is what ended up keeping him in the game. Like never ring the bell, stay in the game. Like I think I almost want to like change the name of this podcast to Stay in the Game, because it's just such a it's such a relevant theme for my life right now, where you have this financial asset that I fully believe in and have so much conviction in Bitcoin that's down 50% in the last 6 months. And I have to grasp with that reality of how can I stay in the game where I can get through this bear market because I believe in the technology and I believe in the movement, and I don't want to ring the bell. So what are the practices that I can take that provide value to gain value and also just strip down what's not needed? So that goes back to, again, like, what do you really want? Is it materialistic items? Am I trying to buy a brand new Ferrari? Like, no, like, and that's not something that's even in my peer view right now of the, like, of what's, you know, a part of my internal roadmap. It's really just about building that vision and that community where I can stay in the game, so I am able to then provide that value, and it just becomes a continuous process. So I could not recommend this speech in this book enough. Again, like, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed, because the ripples will span so far and wide. And what are the making your bed equivalents that can span across your life? It really is it's so simplified, but also just energizing and reassuring to a lot of the work and the podcasts and interviews that I review here. In the themes continue to come up of like stay in the game, of just like move with purpose, don't get too high, don't get too low, and just let the foundation build, like brick by brick, keep on going. um because when you have that structure, that and you just continue to try and experiment, like that is what the game is. And again, provide value. And when you provide that value, then the value gets returned. uh, and that's in a variety of ways. It's in relationships, it's financial, yes, but it's also in opportunities, and just so many areas of life that aren't necessarily quantifiable. But that's okay. And it becomes a fun game and a fun journey to have that adventure and to explore and to try new things and to, just experiment at the end of the day. Because that's all life is. Nobody knows nobody knows what they're doing. That's another key takeaway from a lot of these episodes. Nobody knows what they're doing. So I appreciate you listening to this episode. Gonna get back to a more consistent uh, release of these episodes and newsletters. If you have any recommendations, please drop them below. Of course, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Probably could ask for that to do that a little bit better. But I'm just building this right now because I want to get better at telling stories, and I want to share some of the valuable lessons that I continuously come back to help me refocus and recalibrate um, on my life and my journey and my adventure. And it's definitely going to be different for you, but hopefully there's some nuggets of wisdom that you can take to start seeing these progressions in your own life. So cheers, aho, and please just stay in the game, keep going, and I am looking forward to hearing you next week.